back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Burundi, we got a little bit of an almost an extra episode here that we're doing this Wednesday evening. We've had a lot of news over the past couple of days. There's honestly been a ton of stuff all of a sudden happening as the season gets ready to start. So we're kind of just doing an extra news episode here. We got a whole bunch of stuff we want to get through in not too long of a time. We've been going real long with these reviews, so we're hoping to keep this one relatively concise. So do we want to just crack on with some of these contract extensions?
Yeah. We can just kind of rip through them. If there's obviously certain ones we'll talk about more than others. So
yeah,
if you want to just start listing them off, and we'll just go through all those one by one.
All right. Might as well start with one of the big ones. The biggest one as of late, Sidney Crosby re-ups for 2 more seasons with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, had an AAV of 8.7 for 2 more years after this year. So the Pens have Crosby for another 3 years, and at the same cap hit he's always been.
Yeah, I mean, the two things we knew was, Crosby was sticking around in Pittsburgh. I never got behind any of those rumors of him going to Colorado or Montreal. Like, that was no, it wasn't happening. And then, we knew it was going to come back to 8.7. That's just Crosby's thing. 87, 8.7, like that's the defining numbers of his career. So, and also that it helps Pittsburgh kind of have a little, because Crosby could have gotten double digits easily. So Pittsburgh's got a little
years. He could have, if he said give me 12 for 2 years. Like, Kyle Dubas doesn't even read the contract; he just signs. Like, it's Sid the Kid. He was, if they got in the playoffs last year, he was getting heart votes. Like, he's still so good at, I want to say 37 years old. Like, dude is absolutely timeless, and
he probably tells people he's 87 years old.
Actually.
And it's just a lot more money for Pittsburgh to play around with now. Is they try to remain relevant in the Metro. It's tough for them, but getting Crosby at 8.7 is great, and it probably means that Sidney Crosby now will remain with the Penguins. I don't know if he signs another deal after this one, or if it's like, we've kind of only got 3 years left of Crosby. But I think it's pretty safe to say now he's gonna retire with the Penguins now. Like, that's where he's gonna stay his whole career.
I do genuinely wonder, because I can so easily see both scenarios of Crosby really wants to just stay with one team for that his whole career. He's a Penguin through and through, regardless of if he does move. But I do wonder if, on the last year of that deal in 2 years, 8.7, you retain half of that, just under 4.5 mil, you can have a rental Sidney Crosby. Like, and the second he retires, whether he wants to be the coach, the GM, the president of hockey ops, they are firing whoever is currently in that spot into the sun, barring Mario Lemieux himself, and they're giving Crosby the job he wants, right? So I do wonder if he goes, someday I want to be the coach in Pittsburgh, maybe the GM at some point. Would be nice to have a couple extra firsts, and he gets traded in his last year to try and help set up the team for success in the future, because he's a smart guy. He knows how rebuilds work.
If it was like Crosby didn't have a cup or something, maybe, but like, he's already got 3 cups. He's got like every award you can possibly win. Yeah. He's just one of those guys that, like a Lemieux or something, that just wants to be a one-team guy. And, Crosby's got so much respect and for himself and for the game. Like, I just can't see Crosby when he's 40 years old being like, I'm going to go to this wagon of a contender and kind of ride the coattails of all the other guys there and get it. Like, Crosby's, he's the guy. He's always been the guy. I don't see him him leaving. Like, he's going to just stay with the Penguins, and that's going to be another thing that he's known for, is just he gave, decades worth of great hockey to Pittsburgh, and he, even when things got tough, he, like right now, he just stuck with it. He remained loyal, and I think that's a huge thing to be able to say at the end of your career, because not many guys can say that.
Yeah, and there are some guys, there's quite a couple names in this conversation, and I have no idea if this is a hot take or not, but I'm going to hit you with it right now. Sidney Crosby is the best captain in NHL history.
Yeah.
Like,
I think so.
There's other guys up there. Steve Yzerman's name gets thrown out a lot for that. Who's the other one? Joe Sakic?
Yeah.
I believe gets put out there a lot. But for my money, like, Sid, he's some guys, a lot of guys like McDavid get compared to him, and it's like, they don't bring guys up to their level like Crosby. Crosby's been known, like, his entire career for elevating talent around him.
Saying McDavid right beforehand's a bad example, because he made Nugent Hopkins. He made Nugent Hopkins like 100-point guy, where I like Nuge, but he's a 60, 65 point guy. Zach Hyman just over the course of the season of playoffs, like
57?
Over 70 goals in total. Like, he scored literally the most goals out of anybody the entirety of this last year. I mean, a lot of playoff games, but like, still Zach Hyman did that, and that's because playing with McDavid. But I agree. Like, you look at all the guys that Crosby's elevated, and I mean, it sucks we didn't get more chances at the Olympics, but like, how many times has he, been a captain for Canada? I mean, he scored one of the biggest goals ever. Yeah, in my opinion, I think he's the biggest goal. I think he's the greatest captain in NHL history. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Hopefully after he retires, like, it would actually be so funny to see after he retires if they scrapped the Mark Messier award and gave him the Sidney Crosby award. Because the funny thing would be, if it's just Crosby picking a guy, that trophy actually would mean something. Nobody cares that just Messier picks this award, because, like, we've seen him be a tool. Vancouver fans know what we're talking about. But everyone respects Crosby. Like, even the people who say they don't like him, who probably have a Philly jersey on or a Washington jersey, like, I get not liking him because he crushes your team. Trust me, I get it. But everyone respects him on some level,
and also he's one of the biggest stars in just sports history outside of hockey. There's never any issues with him. You never hear of him getting into fights with teammates. Hockey. You never hear any of the stuff outside the game and trouble he's getting into. Like, he's always just been a solid dude, on and off the ice, and has been a great. I mean, we're literally talking about the contract he signed. The day he signed this deal, he went out later that day and went to a couple fans' homes in Pittsburgh to deliver their season tickets to him, and then was just chatting with fans. Like, that's what he did on the day when he signed this contract. He went out and gave back to the fans and created moments and memories for them. So that tells you all you need to know right there.
Yeah. It's everything that you can say about him's already been said about Crosby. And this was a good contract when he signed this for this money. What would it have been, like 15 years ago? And it's only better now. Like, he has hardly regressed, if you even want to say he has. And the cap's gone up. We're not quite at double, but like it's like 70-80% more than what it was back when he signed that first one. So absolute bargain for Pittsburgh. Hopefully they can use that cap space to their advantage. That they'll be saving on that.
Yeah.
That's probably the one we're going to spend the most time talking about. There's quite a few that we'll be able to go through relatively quickly. The next one we got here, we're probably going to talk about this one a decent bit, but Lucas Raymond extending with just signing with the Detroit Red Wings. 8 years at $8.075 million per year. What do you think about this deal?
I mean, I love it because the list of news we got to go through, there's two things I got completely right predicting and one thing I got very wrong. And this was one of them. I said, I mean, it's a touch over 8 mil, but I said 8x8. Like, that's right where I saw this deal getting done. I think this is a good deal for both sides. It gets Raymond's making a shit ton of money. Is he going to maybe be underpaid at some point because of this deal? Probably, but when you look at how much money he's guaranteed for himself already, and the fact he's going to be able to sign another big contract, and for Detroit, getting him locked in at this, as long as he continues to, progress at the rate he's going, like, this is going to be a great deal for them.
Yeah.
It's just a good contract all around.
It's a good contract all around. I do think he could have got a little bit more. Like, I think the biggest thing was he's not getting that 8.7. He's not getting more than 8.7, which is not just what Crosby's making, but also Dylan Larkin. I think, worst comes to worst, that was the hard cap of, like, you cannot get more than Larkin.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't get, like, maybe 8.5, but, I mean, that's still pretty damn close. He got that extra $75K each year. So, yeah, I don't hate an 8x8 at all for the team. I think that's going to be great for him. He, especially in the second half of last year, really broke out, and I think he's going to continue to improve with that team. Yeah. Man, that Atlantic division is just nasty.
It's stacked. There's a lot of good teams. Like, we recently just covered Montreal, and we were talking about how good, of a team they're looking to be, and there's a very good chance they're going to finish last in that division. Like, it's good from top to bottom.
There's genuinely, like, 4 teams I could see very reasonably finishing last in the Atlantic. Like, honestly, like, there's so many. Like, it's goofy ass over there, dude. There's so many top end talents.
It's going to be a dogfight, and I can't wait to watch it. But for this contract, I like it for Raymond. I like it for Detroit.
It's good.
Now they just got to figure out how to get Sider, get that deal done.
Yeah.
That's the last one they got to get done, and then hopefully it's a march to the playoffs for them. That's what they're hoping for this year, and what they should be hoping for at this point.
Well, Stevie Y's got to be really hoping at this point. There's a lot of people questioning him at this point.
Honestly, as much as I like Stevie Y, his job security might actually be on the same level as Rob Blake.
Like, I don't think
just on the fact of
that much. I think
just on the fact of, like, how long has he been there? Like, how long has he been there? And it's like,
I want to say 6 years.
You look at all these other teams that have done or started rebuilds at similar times or retools, and how much ahead they are. It's like, it's a slow burn for Detroit, and I hope it pays off. But
yeah, they
got
to
make the playoffs eventually here. Like,
to be fair to them, they are a team that has been screwed by the draft lottery a couple of times now. They've had it pretty rough, which is kind of crazy, because you'd think that, if anything, the NHL would really want one of the original 6 teams to get that first overall pick. But you know what? They've been slowly working it back up. They're ready to contend now, hopefully, in their eyes. I think in the past 2 years especially, a lot of people have started questioning him. And, is the Yzer plan really... Is it really going to happen? Or did he just luck out in Tampa? And it's really hard to say, but I do think he's making some good moves.
Saying they've got screwed by the draft lottery, nah. I don't use that one.
They've moved down more than anybody, haven't they? In the past, like, 5 or 6 years?
Only in 2020. And that was the year where they were the worst team. They were horrifically bad. And that's the year that the Rangers, being in the bubble with a chance to win the cup, ended up with the first overall pick. You could argue it worked out well for Detroit, because I think they're better off having Lucas Raymond right now over having Lafreniere.
Fair.
Like, it actually did kind of, because, like, And
At
there's
the same time,
in no world if they ended up with pick 1, like Lafreniere was going 1.
He was the
consensus
for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be Byfield, Stützle, or Raymond at 1. Like it was 100% Lafreniere. So I mean, yeah, it sucks like that they did move down, but at the end, like I think
I do wonder what Lafreniere would be for him, because I think the Rangers might be. I would probably say they're the worst team at developing high-end talent.
They are. So, they 100% are.
I very much would love to know in an alternate universe where he goes to Detroit what numbers he put up last year. You know, like maybe he's like 5 points more than he did with the Rangers, or maybe he's a 100-point player by this point. Who knows?
Yeah, and then like even a lot of Colorado fans are like, oh, we've got hurt by the draft lottery. The only year they were the worst team and had the best odds was 2017. You didn't get Nico Hischier, but hey, you got Cale Makar instead.
I do think that it was on record that they were going to take him even if they had number 1.
Really?
And apparently all the Philly scouts who got Nolan Patrick number 2 said that as well. All the scouts wanted Makar, and whoever was their GM at the time said, nope, it's my call. We're taking the power forward. And yikes.
Yeah, the only team I would say can argue
bad
that
Nolan Patrick, because he would have been great. It's just concussions, but damn, Cale Makar would have been nice there.
Yeah, the only fans I can like that I will say are allowed to complain about the draft lottery is Buffalo fans, because I mean 2014, 2015, back-to-back years you were the worst team and you lost the draft lottery both times. And so, the chance that they could have had Aaron Ekblad or Connor McDavid is how tough of a pill is that to swallow? If you're like a Buffalo fan and you've been so bad, you've got the best odds for the first overall pick in the year with McDavid, and you don't.
And it goes to the team who's got the first overall pick a million times. That's brutal.
Like I just can't even imagine what I mean, I got to imagine it's tough being a Buffalo fan either way, but like on that draft lottery day,
that had to have been rough. I don't think they can complain anymore, though. They've got 2 first overalls since then in Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah, but you ask any Buffalo fan, they would trade.
If they would trade on this team still,
Buffalo fans would trade.
Well, yeah,
Dahlin and Power all day for McDavid.
Well, yeah, but that's reaching 9 years ago.
I'm just saying. I think Detroit's been.
It's fair, but they've winning 2 is I think winning 2 takes you out of being screwed by the draft lottery at the least.
No, I'm just saying, even if they won like one of those, like not both, just
That's
even
fair.
One of those 2. Even Detroit.
I wonder if they take both defensemen. If they also have Aaron Ekblad, do they still take Dahlin and Power first overall? Do they just use 3 firsts on defensemen, assuming that they still get the 2 firsts? There's no way. There's no way they take Owen Power. I think they take Dahlin. I don't think you can do it a third time.
They would 100%. Yeah, they would take Dahlin. Owen Power, like,
because he wasn't the consensus first overall. A lot of people figured, but like
he kind of
wasn't like he is going first. Like
It was pretty consensus for the most, just because like there was a lot of other good players, but like
I think it was around the Shane Wright level of he's probably going first, and then at the last second it changed. Maybe a bit more
I've actually done some recent kind of deep dives into that 2021 draft. And
not the scoop.
Not like team scouts, but just like individual hockey scouts out there that do a lot of articles. In their opinion, the top defenseman going to the draft is obviously Owen Power, and the top forward was Willie Meckland. Those were like the top 2 guys there for a lot of the top guys. Yeah. So but like there were guys like Matty Beniers. Mason McTavish was classified as a reach at that time a little bit by Anaheim again.
He was a big mover.
Luke Hughes, he was never going number 1 because, I mean,
no,
he literally played on the same team as Owen Power, and Owen Power was.
Why does Mason McTavish sound so good in Buffalo? Why does something about that seems fun?
Crazy that 2021 draft, out of the top 5, 4 of those guys all played on the same team together.
Yeah,
just nuts.
Oh God! In 5 years, we're going to be looking back at all the recent Art Ross and Hart Trophy winners, and they're all going to have played for frickin' Michigan or Boston.
I will also say, though,
Michigan University or Boston College. Like
you did say the Rangers are probably I think they are the worst team when it comes to developing prospects.
At least
I don't think Detroit's that far behind them when it comes to top end, like your top prospects. Either that or they're bad at drafting. It's one of the two. Because they've missed on a lot of their top guys. Like
how many? Do you know? Because obviously Philip Zadina is a huge one.
2015 they took Evgeny Svechnikov 19th overall. 2016 they took 19. Dennis Cholowski 20th overall. No, but you'd want NHL players at least.
Yeah, but I feel like probably about 50% of first rounders end up in the NHL. Maybe a little bit more, but like
2017 they took Rasmussen 9th overall. He's developing decent, but like you'd hope more for a 9th overall.
What year was that?
That was 2017.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was that long ago.
Yeah. 2018, yeah, Zadina 6th overall. I think Zadina probably could have
everyone taking around him is a stud.
I think Zadina could have just maybe benefited from having some more time playing the juniors again instead of getting called up. Sider 2019, that was fine. 2020, Lucas Raymond, solid. And then going from there, it's tough to judge because we haven't seen any of those guys yet.
Sorry, so like if they're... Can you do the last few again? So Sider was which year?
2019.
And then which one was before that? What year was that?
2018. That was Zadina and Veleno.
I'm trying to think exactly when Yzerman came into Detroit because I think that might, from Zadina to Sider, might be when Yzerman actually showed up.
I'm not. It was somewhere within that time.
How long? He came in as the general manager in 2019.
2019.
Yeah. Okay, so all those misses were whoever was running it before. I mean, God, whoever that was, that's rough. God, was that the guy who went to Edmonton? Am I crazy?
Yeah, Ken Holland. Yeah,
Ken Holland, who just lost his job to another schmuck. Good Lord.
That's why I was saying for years when he was with Edmonton, I said every year at the trade deadline, just like sell your first round pick, improve your team with McDavid, because odds are you're not getting an NHL player with your first round pick anyways. So you might as well trade it for a known. But moving on from Detroit now, what do we?
Yeah, all that to say, good contract for Lucas Raymond.
Yeah, we actually did talk about that one more than Crosby.
Yeah, we're pretty bad for that.
This is just a filler episode. We're just going by what we feel. We're going off vibes today.
Yeah, it's a little bonus news episode here. We got 2 from Dallas. Do you want to break these ones down?
Yeah. First one, Thomas Harley, their RFA. They got him a new deal, 2 years, $4 million per year, as well as signing Esa Lindell to an extension. That one coming in at 5 years, 5.25 per year. I think these are both great deals. The more you looked at it, you kind of assumed Harley was probably going to get that bridge deal, just because, it keeps him happy for 2 years. He's going to get paid afterwards. It gives Dallas lots of extra money to kind of play with, as they're kind of in their win now mode. Especially with guys like Stankoven and Wyatt Johnston, like they're on their entry level deals still. They're making pennies in terms of the salary cap. That is.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Lindell, like you get, he's a great defenseman. He's been solid for them for years. Like 5 years or just a little over $5 million, I think is great for a solid top 4 defenseman who's logging, 20 minutes minimum per night. I'm a big fan of both these deals, and I think they do really well for Dallas, long term and short term.
Yeah. Completely agreed. It really opens a window for them. in that next 2 years with Harley and the people they have on their ELCs, like it really is now like more than ever win now mode in these next 2 years for Dallas. Lindell for another 5 years, I think is solid. Is he still playing? No, he's not still with Heiskanen at this point. It's kind of Harley and Heiskanen, right?
Yeah.
But
Lindell's which kind of sucks for Lindell
because
him with Tanev was so good.
Yeah,
I really thought Dallas was going to do whatever they could to keep Tanev, but after hearing that there was a 6-year deal out there for Tanev, there was no way they would.
Yeah.
Nor should they have matched it.
Yeah. Honestly, you know what? You know what this is that's reminding me of a little bit? Tampa Bay's second D pairing when we won our cups. Esa Lindell is pretty comparable to Eric Turnak, and Tanev last year was playing like Brian McDonough in his prime. Like, it just a great shutdown pair on that second pairing that can just eat minutes and block every shot in the world. Like,
it was a great pairing. Like their top 4D was
Harley's gonna get paid after those 2 years though, so they either got to look to make room, but honestly, I think he's probably one of those guys that ends up going.
No, they'll find a way to keep him.
They've already got a good chunk of change tied up in some guys, and at that same time, they're going to be having to pay. Wyatt Johnston's going to make bank. Stankoven's at least going to get something, depending on how long his deal is. Like,
we got to look at
all the money's going to be there.
You look in 2 years, Matt Dumba, his 3.7's off the books. In 2 years, Lyubushkin's 3.2 is off the books.
Yeah. I think those are all 2-year deals on purpose.
Jamie Benn's he's on the last year of his deal, so that 9.5 is going to drastically come down. Mason Marchment, his 4.5 is up in 2 years. Like there's, and especially with Harley, like you're not going to let a guy, especially if Harley progresses the way he is, you're not going to let Harley walk just so you can have the most stacked forward core in history, and then just have Heiskanen back there. The money will be there, especially with the cap also going up. That's always a thing we can mention now because we're in that world again. No, he'll be around for a long time with Dallas.
Hey, here's
especially
hoping,
like you're looking at
he's a great pairing with Heiskanen.
Yeah, like he's looking at the chance of like seeing all these young studs coming up and being like, I get to play with these guys and play on the blue line with Heiskanen for the next 12, 13, 14 years. Like that's
what? Yeah, they would sooner move other guys. Like they would trade the rest of Lindell's contract and stuff. Like,
and
if they
Tyler Seguin would be on the last year of his deal. So like if worse comes to worse, you attach a pick or a prospect, retain a bit of money, dump Seguin, and then all that money can go to Harley as well.
Yeah,
Dallas's contract situation is actually really nice now that I look at it.
They got, at some point, they just got real sneaky good, dude.
They
just drafted so well.
I'm like
they didn't even have to go into a rebuild. We were kind of talking about on a recent episode how some teams just kind of skip rebuilding. Their Seguin and Ben were on the downswing. The whole team looked like it was collapsing, and then they drafted like madmen for a few years and not just back, they're top contenders. Like they were a lot of people's cup picks last year. Like
they're one of the best run teams in the NHL. You could even make the argument they're the best run team, and I won't argue with you for a second. From all aspects of it, like it's a very nicely run organization.
Yeah, they're incredibly run. I'm trying to find the year here because I know there's one year in specific where they just like killed it. Yeah, here it is. In 2017, like listen to this freaking draft year they had. Third overall,
this year's nuts.
Miro Heiskanen. 26th overall, Jake Ottinger. Oh, but now they're down the second round. I bet they suck a bit more. Jason Robertson. Bro, that's their first 3 picks of the draft. That is ludicrous.
That's literally your franchise, forward.
That's a core.
Your franchise defenseman, your franchise goalie, right there in one draft.
Yeah, like they were so on the downswing, and then they had that draft year with 2 firsts and a second round pick, and they are back. Like That's
yeah. One draft set him up for the next 20 years.
Hey, they drafted Nick Paul. Look at that. Good for him. Maybe he'll be Jason Robertson next year.
But moving on from the wonderfully run Dallas Stars, the Buffalo Sabres re-signed Peyton Krebs, 2-year deal, 1.45 AAV.
This is good for both sides. I feel like.
Yeah.
He hasn't proven himself enough. He knows that. The team knows that. Pay him a little bit. They're not up against the cap. We'll see what he's worth in 2 years, right?
Yeah, and I'm like,
they don't mind keeping him around. He's good enough to play games easily, but he has that first round pedigree, and I'm sure both the team and him are hoping that he reaches that potential, that kind of like top 6 playmaker potential that.
Well, and he's kind of in a make or break year almost. Like this is the year he's like it's got to start clicking for him. You already look at the guys Buffalo's got up front, and then you're starting to look at a lot of their good young players that have been playing over in other parts of the world. They're all coming over and playing. They're going to try and take their crack at making.
They're starting to make that roster.
The NHL this year, and if not, they're all going to be down there in the AHL, but they're going to be eligible to be called up. And so, if it's not quite working for Krebs, you've got lots of guys now that are young and hungry for the spot that you could give a chance to. So Buffalo's got lots of options, though, which is something we haven't been able to say with them for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
last decade.
We're getting to the point where it's almost a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Do you want to do these next three minor ones here?
Who are these 3 chumps? Yeah, we got 3 guys who all signed 1-year deals for all with 825K deals with their respective teams. We got Bergerin with Detroit. We got Kaliev with the LA Kings, and we got Tomasino with Nashville.
So the Kaliev one was the one I was wrong about. I was saying in the LA review last week that I thought he was going to be traded. Obviously, not the case. So there's a good chance for him to crack into that top 6 for LA and make a run. And then, but like all 3 of these signings, like it's kind of 1 year prove it's, and we're going to give you the opportunity if you make the most of it.
Yeah, guys, where
there will be some money for you at the end of the road.
Yeah, it's not near as much of a make or break year. Like all these guys are a little bit younger, it feels like, and they're still coming up. But I'm confident all 3 of these guys are going to be making a little bit more than 825K come next year.
I would assume so. Yeah.
One guy who is making more than that at 900K, James Van Riemsdyk signed a 1-year deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I love this for them. There was multiple teams that were reaching out to him, ready to offer him a PTO. And Columbus said, hey, you know what? We know he's a good NHL player. We don't need him to try out. Just sign a fucking contract with us.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and it's a great
deal. It seems like a no-brainer. Like,
it's a great deal for both sides, right? Like Columbus is getting a good veteran to add in the locker room with quite a relatively young team. And for JVR, like, again, it's a 1-year deal at 900K. So it's probably right there in the deal. And they discuss it's like, hey, come be a mentor, come play, 60 games for us. And then trade deadline, we'll send you to the best contender we can find that's wanting you. And then we'll get, kind of like a Kyle Okposo last year with Buffalo. Like, obviously he was on a longer deal, but it's like, come in, do your time for 60 games. And then we're going to send you to whatever team you want to go to. If you see a team that's a contender you like, let us know and we'll try and work out a deal to send you there. And teams can fit in 900. If Columbus even wanted to, they could retain half. But like, for 900K, you probably don't even need to, because you're going to be taking someone back in the deal anyways. So it's a great deal for both JVR and the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm surprised we don't see a couple more of these from rebuilding teams. Like, maybe it's just like, EA Sports franchise mode video game brain, but like, bro, if I'm the GM of the Blue Jackets, of the Sharks, of the Blackhawks. Like, every single year in this rebuild, I'm signing at least 3 or 4 guys to 1 to 2 year deals that are like just free agents, and you can pay them a little bit more than they're worth, and then just ship them out at the deadline every time.
But like,
just gather all that draft capital you can. Like,
it's tough because you've got teams like Chicago and San Jose that, like,
if
they
you
just
have
don't,
the roster,
they don't have room.
If you have the roster spots,
like there's just not, especially for a guy like JVR. There's not really room, and those teams already got like a bunch of veterans.
I don't think you can have too many.
You can if you're forcing a guy out. Like,
if you don't have the young guys to play yet, like, this would be to get draft capital, assuming you don't have a ton, or if you just have a hole in the lineup somewhere. Like, you obviously, because you're not going to sign a guy, scratch him all year, and then trade him at the deadline. Like, that's not going to go over well. But
which is kind of why I was surprised it wasn't like a PTO, just because, again, like, a lot of these kind of teams down at the bottom that were kind of swirling around JVR, there just wasn't room. So it's like, the fact that JVR got a contract, he was probably all over that immediately.
Yeah, Don Waddell did mention, I want to say either earlier today or yesterday, that he specifically did it because he specifically signed the contract and not a PTO because it sounded like other teams were interested, mainly the Toronto Maple Leafs. And one thing is that if you sign a PTO with a team, that's not a contract. Like, if he's on a PTO with Columbus and looks good, Toronto can walk up and say, here's a contract, sign it. Like, you don't get dibs because you're doing that unless the guy, like, handshake agreement says so. Like, so they realized, you know what? We need a guy to fill this spot. JVR was good last year. Let's do it. Like, and honestly, I'm surprised he got to this point without a deal, because he was actually really not that bad last year. Like, I'm kind of surprised it took this long for him to get only $900K. Like, he's not a guy who needs a PTO. Last year with the Boston Bruins, 71 games played. How many points do you think he got last year?
Probably around the 35 mark.
Yeah, 38 points, 11 of them goals. He put up 5 points in 11 playoff games. Why is this guy barely scraping into a $900K deal?
Yeah,
People say he has good leadership. Sure. Like, what? So what's the whole?
I didn't really watch a whole lot of Boston games last year. The only thing that I could really think of is maybe, like, the foot speed isn't quite there anymore. But the fact alone he dropped 38 points, like, he can still make it work regardless. So I was kind of shocked that it did go that long without him getting a deal.
Yeah, and like everyone's saying as he gets signed, like, that's good because he's a good locker room guy, good leadership, like that on top of good play. Honestly, it looks like his points per game went up last year from the last few years. I guess he was on Boston compared to the Flyers, but you're clearly not signed this guy to be a top 6 forward anymore. So it's surprising that it got to this point. Like, there's a lot of teams that could have used a guy like that for that cheap.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's a great get for the Blue Jackets.
Yeah. Speaking of a former Blue Jackets player, Nick Foligno, former captain of the Columbus Blue Jackets, was officially named the newest captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, their first captain since Jonathan Toews left. This was another one that I said a couple of months ago. I said, like, this is the perfect pick. Like, this is the perfect guy to give the seat to, especially after what you saw him do last year for the team with the rookies. And again, like, you're still going through the rebuild. You don't need to slap. Like, it was kind of different with, like, McDavid, just looking at, like, generational guys, because it was like, Edmonton was kind of looking on the up, whereas, like, Chicago's still, like, kind of deep in the thick of a rebuild. And so, like, you don't need to go to your youngest player, Bedard. I know he's your best, but you don't need to slap the C on him and be like, hey, you're going to be the captain through all this hardship and whatnot. Like, Foligno's been there. He's a good veteran. Let Foligno.
That might be. Like,
it's just a lot of pressure. It's just a lot of unnecessary pressure you throw on him.
I feel like that's good for him though. Like some guys, like if you pick a guy 9th overall, you don't want too much pressure on him. These guys, the Crosbys, the McDavids, the Bedards, I feel
No,
like those are the guys where the pressure creates diamonds. Like
in a
that's how you
big
get the
market
golden
like
goal, you know?
no, in a big market like Chicago, you don't need Bedard getting ripped to shreds by the media
And he's not gonna get ripped to shreds by the media. Come on.
lots of guys, lots of
Nobody's gonna
reporters
blame him.
would, because you get
No.
that's how you get the clickbait and
Ban him
whatnot.
from the building. Nobody's gonna come in and be like, "Hey Bedard, how come you and line mate Taylor Radish didn't win the game on your first line?"
You always take it to the next level. It would be simple questions like, as like you guys are on a 8-game losing streak. What are you as the captain doing to get your team riled up? What are you doing to like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
because it's all going to be on him. Let Foligno take the heat. Just let Bedard focus on playing hockey, elevating his game, not having to worry about all these different things. And then once the team's, starting to make the cusp, making the playoffs, that's when it's like, okay, now Bedard's our guy. This is the future of the Blackhawks. Like, this is what you're going to be getting for the next, 15 years or so. And Foligno's got a lot to teach to these young guys. Like,
Foligno's a great pick. Like, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with this pick at all. I do think that I almost think that it would have helped Bedard's growth as a captain to maybe go through that. And where you were as a captain to kind of where you're going. He's going to be on the team regardless, right? Like, he's going to know what it's like to be on a rebuilding team. But I
think it would do great for helping him,
he shines be better in the spotlight
as a leader and a captain down the road. But like, I already think Bedard's a fantastic leader in his own right. Like, I think he's already at that point. Like, he's, he's a young player, but he's so mature for his age and like, and where he's at, that he's going to be a fantastic captain either way. Like, I'm looking at the other side of like, I think giving him the seed more so could potentially hurt his just development as a player. Like, just even if you want to throw an A on him or something, that's fine, but just let him go out there and be a hockey player. Just let him go out there and just focus on playing right now, focus on getting better. Foligno can handle all the other stuff, and just let Bedard just go out there and do his thing. Is more so what I'm looking at. Just like let him go out there and light it up every night, do his thing, and just continue to just get better game in and game out. Because he's like, it just seems like he gets better every single game he plays.
Yeah, and he's literally going to every game for the next 5 years get better. Like,
potentially even more. Like, McDavid seems to still be getting better.
Like actually, like,
we're going into year 10 of McDavid.
People say we're watching his peak, but like, and I mean, like, people said that when he dropped, what was it, 151 points a few years ago?
Yeah.
And he just was closing in a few months ago on the all-time single playoff record. Like, he literally had the most points outside of Lemieux and Gretzky.
Yeah, which is like, that's elite company to be in.
That's the elite company to
be in. Like, even have your name in the conversation, like, yeah.
Like that. So, yeah, I feel like another part of it is these guys who are like, there's franchise pieces, but like, there's that, and then there's the generational guys that, like, we've been hearing about Bedard since freaking 2017. Like, since he was like 13 years old, we were hearing about this guy. Like, he's known probably before he hit puberty that he was going to captain an NHL team. That is insane. And I do wonder how much like mental preparation and like coaching in that sense has gone on, like, through juniors and stuff like that. Or maybe they all just focus on developing his talent, and it's like, he'll figure that out later. Like,
I think that's I
really have no idea.
I think that's more so it is. Like, it's just letting him be the talent, in terms of stuff of like, knowing he's going to be a captain. I think that's, more so kind of stuff for, his family, his agent, like kind of that side of it. I think would kind of more so focus on that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, if you've got Bedard in juniors and you're the coach, first of all, you're looking like this is going to be a fun team to coach. And second of all, it's just let him just work and help him develop and be the best player. Because like, if you're the coach, you want to go down as being like the guy who coached Bedard when he was coming up, and you're just you're just praying to God that you don't stunt his growth or hurt him as a player or have him
you're
like
hoping
shit
that
talk
he can
you
boost your
when he
stock
gets
as
to
a
the
coach.
big leagues. Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Well, look at Chris Knobloch. Look at Chris Knobloch.
Actually,
he got an NHL job because he coached McDavid and juniors, and McDavid brought him in. Like McDavid, like the Oilers didn't bring him in. Let's be real. McDavid brought him in as head coach. So that maybe that's in the future with Bedard. You never know. But sorry, what were you gonna?
I was just wondering how long, and I'll be honest, I think there's probably a right answer to this, but how long do you think Nick Foligno is captain?
Well, like he signed a 1-year deal, right? So like it could very well be like a fucking Adam or Mark Giordano thing with Seattle, right? Like it could be like Foligno literally could be traded at the trade deadline. If like Chicago's getting offered a first round pick for Foligno half retained, like you're doing
Foligno's
that.
Got 2. He's got 2 years.
Oh, was it a 2-year deal? Oh, okay. Yeah. So probably at least this year. And then going into next year, he'll probably, play at least up until the trade deadline. Like I would say 2 years most. Like the term of this deal.
Yeah.
I would say 2 years max. Because once Bedard gets his 8-year, I'm assuming he signs a massive 8-year extension. Like by the time that deal's actually kicking in, you want the C on him by that point, I think.
Yeah.
Now
they've already got guys currently putting $100 bills in briefcases for him.
Yeah. Like they've already got the money set to the side. Yeah. So
I think
2 years max.
That's when I would say personally, I think the whole, because Nick Foligno was like the Bedard wrangler last year. Like he was coaching him, like specifically, he was helping him out. Like he was just his absolute boy, right? So
yeah,
I think Foligno's going to be the captain through until somewhere between July 1st and July 10th next year. Bedard's going to get a big fat 8-year extension, and I think with it comes the C probably. I could definitely see them also doing another year of Foligno, and then after the 2 years, then it goes to Bedard. But
I think you do Foligno
after the 8 years.
I wouldn't be shocked at it, but I think it's Foligno until he's no longer on the team, right? Because like Foligno also doesn't have that much time left in the NHL.
36 years old.
So, I think it's whenever Foligno's gone, whether he's moved at potentially the trade deadline this year, if he's moved next offseason or the future deadline, like.
Maybe I could.
I know. I just think it's weird if you give Foligno the captaincy for a year and then strip him. You don't really ever see that happen.
That even more so than Tavares would be him clearly giving the C to Bedard. He just got the captaincy earlier today, and we already know he's going to be giving it to Bedard at some point. Yeah. Whether it's his contract expiring or like he's there because he's the guy who can help Bedard the most.
Yeah.
And like I would not be shocked if Bedard signs a big old extension and then he's like, all right, change my C to an A and swap out Bedard's patch for a C. And then he's still kind of
he's like his advisor
for the next year. Especially since I do believe Foligno's probably going to get an office job pretty easily in Chicago once he's done playing. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But
I could also see Foligno
going to Bedard.
I could also see Foligno going back to Columbus when his career's done.
I could also see
I think it's almost, I don't want to say more likely because I mean look at Brodeur. Thought it was a shoo-in that he would get a job with the Devils when he retired, but no, he goes to the Blues, who he played a few games with.
Like, not even. Yeah. Hey,
maybe
know what?
Maybe Lundqvist will go to Washington.
People didn't like that he did that, but you know what? It's a smart play. He got a front office job over in St. Louis, right? Like,
yeah.
And like, I got to assume, like, there's no way they're telling him to pound sand while he's playing his last year, going, "You're not getting an office job." I got to assume he wanted to, whether it's people or the location, like he had some reason to want to be in St. Louis.
And it also makes me think maybe New Jersey didn't offer him one.
He hadn't even retired yet.
No.
Like, I doubt they were like, "You're not getting an office job once you're done." Like, I doubt it.
Moving on, though. You got the next captaincy update. I'll let you take the floor on this one?
Yeah, we knew it was coming. They polled the players in Tampa, and unanimously the entire team said the same answer. Who do you want the next captain? And they announced it today. It is Victor Hedman. He's the successor to Steven Stamkos. He is going to be the captain, hopefully until he retires with Tampa Bay. He was the choice. He was always the choice.
Yeah.
Some people were saying Ryan McDonagh, and don't get me wrong, like, he is a incredible leader. Like, any team he ever goes to, he should instantly get an A on his jersey. But
yeah,
it had to be Hedman. And
yeah, like we've kind of seen a little bit of, like, not a lot, but a little bit of regression in Hedman's game. But like, again, he's still a top 10 defenseman in the league. He's still one of the best leaders in the game. Like, he was 100% the obvious choice. Like, it was actually funny. I don't know who it was posted by, but it was like odds for, this was obviously before that this was announced, but it was like odds for Tampa Bay's next captain. Kucherov wasn't even on there.
Really?
It was Hedman, Point, Hagel, I think actually McDonagh.
It had to have been McDonagh on there.
And then Gensel. Yeah, Kucherov wasn't.
And Gensel
wasn't even on there.
You got all this championship pedigree, and then like Gensel comes in, you just slide it onto him.
Hey, well, you can't word it like that. You can't word it like that. Jay Gensel's got as much championship pedigree as.
Yeah, but not with that entire group of guys. Yeah, they've been there the whole time.
Yeah, with that.
That's insane to not have Kucherov on there, especially since John Cooper is pretty on main, been talking about how Kucherov's biggest step last year was actually in the locker room. Sounds ever since kind of the 2020 Cup run, he's really taken a step. He was kind of that, he's just kind of the hotshot superstar, but he's also just kind of a guy on the team. But he actually took a leadership role in the last few years, and especially last year. So, I mean, to have him not on there, but also have Hagel and Gensel on there is just madness. Like, I wouldn't have. Obviously, Hedman was the first choice, probably McDonagh second, honestly, and then like Point and Kucherov are both there too. But
Hedman was the clear choice. Like,
yeah, Hedman had to actively say, no, I don't want it, give it to somebody else, for anyone else to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was by far the best choice. I think he's going to do a great job. Big shoes to fill, but I mean, I guess for him and Foligno, like, it's big shoes to fill.
Yeah,
but
really.
Like, it's like, he was the clear choice. For that one.
Yeah, and they were asking him in his press conference today, who are some of the guys who have kind of taught you how to be a bit of a leader in the locker room, and he named a couple of the last captains. He said, Vinny Lecavalier, Marty St. Louis, Steven Stamkos. And then he also name-dropped Eric Brewer, which I thought was really cool, who was his defensive partner for a couple of years when he was really young. But he, I don't think he's played for the Lightning in a long time. When was the last time? In 2014, he played with them last. He had a 59-point season. Oh, no, that's penalty minutes. He had 17. I was going to say, there's no way.
I felt like I would have heard about that if he had dropped 59 at one point.
7 and 18 playoff games. It's a lot better than his 2 and 22 in the regular season.
Dude, he's a playoff performer.
What a beast.
Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with this that announcement?
I love the pick, but that's about it. There's not a ton to say. We kind of knew it was coming. Great pick for the captaincy. Love to see it.
Moving on, what do you want to move on to next year?
Is this the last extension? Let's get this out of the way.
Yeah, this one's a quick one.
We got Adam Larson signing a 4-year extension with the Seattle Kraken at 5.25 AAV. Solid number.
Adam Larson, this guy was traded 1-for-1 for Taylor Hall. Don't forget that.
1-for-1.
I'm indifferent on it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
he's good enough. It's not enough term, and it's not a high enough number for me to be able to hate it. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. But I can't sit there and be like, oh, what a great signing. It's like it's a signing.
No,
I'm more on the side of I dislike it just after seeing Lindell sign for the exact same amount. One more year, but like the same amount of money.
I think they're fairly comparable.
I would take Lindell's defensive game over Adam Larson any day.
I guess, but Larson's a little bit more offensive, and it's a big body back there. He's also on the right side, which is nice.
The numbers don't show for offensively, though, compared to Lindell. Like, they're relatively similar players. Larson is right-handed, like Lindell's left. I like Lindell a bit more, but hey, maybe that's why Lindell got the 5th year. So maybe it does even out there.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah, it's a good.
It's not
keep run for Seattle, like one of their day one guys, and you know what? They're keeping some of the original boys there. So I gotta respect that.
Yeah.
Last bit of news before we get into our final two ones. Alex Edler announced his retirement after 17 NHL seasons. Best of luck in retirement. Don't really have whole lot to say.
Yeah, no, it's he had a great career, and yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see it, just because I kind of thought that I had seen that he had retired already.
Yeah, it felt like it was announced like a couple months ago, but now it's like coming back again. I'm
confusing.
We had to have gotten confused with someone.
Oh, there was another Alex that retired recently that we talked about. Was it Goligoski?
Goligoski. Yeah, but that was only like a couple weeks ago. I was thinking like months ago. Like I thought this has already been announced a while ago, but maybe not.
Alex Goligoski, literally like 3 weeks ago, not even, retired also after 17 seasons. It's like we're just repeating the news.
Yeah, just recycling them.
But great career. Don't know if he'll get a contract with a team to be a part of the front office, but you know what? Even the depth guys, like all those guys, any of them who seem to really want to stay in the league, a lot of the time find their way in. Like there's always spots where you can help out.
Yeah.
What do we got here? We got two. Looks like we got a set.
Going to the Boston or the Boston news or the Vancouver news? What do you want to start with?
I'll break out the Vancouver news here. We'll do this one. This one's a lot different. It's it sounds bad, but unfortunately we get the news in a way where it's already dealt with, so it's not near as scary. But Dakota Joshua announced the other day that he had been diagnosed with testicular cancer during the off season. He has already gone through surgery for that, and it sounds like the doctors were able to successfully remove the tumor. And it sounds like he is, for the time being, cancer-free, and he's recovering and won't quite be ready after his surgery for the start of the season, but he does say he is going to be back this season. He specifically said, I will be back this season. So he's not even going to be out for the full year. Hopefully it's like a November return and not a March. He did sign a 4-year, $13 million contract, 3.25 million average, with the Vancouver Canucks earlier this year. So yeah, he's going to want to start playing his new contract on this team sometime this year. And luckily, yeah, it sounds like, the scary news came out and everyone was talking about it, but luckily he's coming out with the news of this is what happened. It's happened. Hopefully all completely dealt with. He's just recovering now. So as far as we can tell so far, it appears to have a happy ending, which is fantastic to hear. But yeah, if you're watching this, make sure to check for lumps, because he said, like, literally he was just during this summer, he just felt a lump on one of his balls and went to the doctor, and that's that's how you catch it early enough that you can just go get it removed. So check yourself.
Yeah, that's. I don't really have much to add on there. Couldn't agree more, and hope he's doing well, and looking forward to seeing him have another good season with the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, he just put up a career high in both points and goals, I believe. 32 points, 18 goals last year. He had 8 points in 13 playoff games as well. So
yeah, he really showed up for the Canucks this year. He was a big part of their overall team success, I would say.
Yeah, he was.
Didn't get talked about enough.
So good luck to him and his recovery, and hopefully they got all of it, and it's not something he has to worry about going forward.
Yeah. Last bit of news that we got is just kind of talking about some rumors regarding Jeremy Swayman, who is still unsigned. He's not reporting to training camp with the Bruins until he's got a contract. I mean, this whole thing has just become a mess at this point, right?
Yeah, and I guess we'll have to watch how we report on this, because Don Sweeney earlier today was he was calling out Biz Nasty.
Yeah, no, Don Sweeney. I hope he's listening to this, because he's being a crybaby about it. He's taking stuff out of context. Dude. He's trying to shift blame in other places, because like Biz never said what Don Sweeney is saying, and Sweeney knows he's completely fumbled this whole situation from start to finish. And as it's getting closer to, we're a lot of media days today for a lot of teams. Training camps are starting tomorrow. And Swayman's unsigned, and it sounds like they're still far apart on a deal. So he's just looking to shift the blame to other places, so people aren't talking about how horribly he's handled this whole thing.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it, because he's done horrible with it.
Yeah, and Biz Nasty comes off. He's an abrasive guy. Like, he's a hockey guy, right? So when he was talking about it, even if everything he said was true or he wasn't spreading rumors, he probably didn't say it in the nicest of way. He was probably like, man, they're fucking this up. So I bet, on top of being frustrated he can't get the deal done, Biz Nasty, I don't doubt Biz Nasty was probably tweeting at him or something too. So that's get your goalie signed, man. You traded away the other one. You got to get it done.
And that's the thing, right? You had all of last year to get him signed. You didn't. You had all of this offseason. You didn't. And worst of all, you traded Allmark away. And again, like, you got your return. Wasn't a great return. You could make the argument, certain pieces, sure, whatever. I'm not on that side. So you gave Swayman all leverage. You didn't have him signed, and now you're like, we just trade away your best friend on the team, and now here's all the leverage you have. You have it all now. And apparently, as Sweeney said, he's confident that something will get done by December 1st, which is a deadline. So, like, there's a chance that the Bruins roll into a contract. Yeah, but just so extending him and keeping him around. So yeah, there's a chance Boston could go into the season Korpisalo and Bussy. Like,
dude, you're not. I'm the jackass that every year puts $5 on the Bruins missing the playoffs, and every year it costs me $5. But dude, you can't go in with that tandem in the Atlantic. That is such a dogfight now. You can't expect to make the playoffs without this guy.
I mean, if you go 10 games or so, you'll probably be okay. But if it's like a William Nylander where it's coming around to that December 1st deadline, yeah, you're probably. And Boston only has $8.5 million cap space.
Yeah, they're gonna have to make room. I don't think he's taken that. I think he's made that abundantly clear.
Even where do you clear up cap space? I'm just looking at the roster. I mean, maybe you move Andrew Peeke. You could get away with that if you can find a team to take him. I mean, I don't know how you move Korpisalo now. You really shouldn't have gotten him back in that I think he'll be a serviceable backup.
It sounds
but
like that
should have found a way to not get him back in that Allmark deal.
It sounds like Ottawa was not taking. They were looking for a goalie, like especially with Markstrom as well. But it sounds like every deal included them sending Korpisalo. Like it sounds like a trade wasn't happening without that. At the same time, I feel
like if you're Boston at that point, then you just
Boston
tell them
should have just not. They should
have just tell them to shove it, and you go poking around elsewhere. Yeah, I'm just looking like there's just not much room for them to move contracts. Like I don't think you can afford to move one of your forwards. Like I think Andrew Peeke. I think you got to find a way to move him, and then I'm curious what both sides are offering. I want to know how far apart they are. Like, is Swayman asking?
I think he's asking double digits.
Double digits?
I think he wants around 10. He was real good last year, and then my God, in the playoffs, like he was the best goalie in the playoffs. Like,
yeah,
they weren't around for as long, but like his stats were nuts. He was knocking on the door of a 930. I'm pretty sure. 933. He was a 933.
I almost wonder, like, if you're Swayman, I feel like if you're Swayman at this point, just be like, I'll take a 1-year, $8 million deal, and then you wait until Igor Shesterkin has signed his massive, because he's going to get a massive extension. And that's going to set the goaltending market. Like when Shesterkin signs, that's what's going to set the new market for top, elite franchise goalies. And then, Swayman probably doesn't get the same amount as Shesterkin, but like, you can get up to within that
90% of it.
That area, yeah. Like if Shesterkin signs for 12, you could probably get 11 if you're Swayman.
I love that you brought that up because I was going to, if you didn't. I think right now, Shesterkin's doing exactly what you just said. Shesterkin is not signing his extension yet. He has said on Maine, like he wants to be the highest paid goalie in the league. Like he wants money. And I think he's waiting to see what Swayman gets so that he can say, hey, like I think he wants Swayman to get as much money as possible so he can go, hey, I want more than that. Like I do wonder if they're both looking at each other like, hey, sign so I can ask for more or similar money. But
I feel like if you're Shesterkin, I mean, I guess it's tough for both sides because if the other guy signs for like less than what you're expecting them to, then it kind of hurts you a bit.
I wonder if they've talked. I wonder if that's part of the business. Are their agents talking and being like, hey, listen, both of these contracts, like one of us signs, it's going to F the other over if we're getting fleeced. So like, here's a number.
I think
neither of us can go below it.
I think Shesterkin's just got to be the one to sign it. Like he is the best goalie in the league. Like I feel like he's kind of just got to.
I think that's the guy who doesn't have to sign. He can wait
But he can command whatever he wants.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But the Rangers haven't done it yet because they have been in talks, but he doesn't have a contract signed. The extension, rather. He is signed for this next season, but like there have been talks, and that's how we know that he wants to be the highest paid goalie. But they don't have a deal done because he's clearly asking for more than they want to give him. But the deal has to get made there. They're not letting Shesterkin walk.
No,
not trading him. Like so.
And that's the thing as well. Though he is
for
a
12
UFA,
and he won't budge. I mean, your hands are tied. What are you gonna do? You can only say no for so long. Like,
when he's a UFA at the end of the year, so it's like you got to get something done by July 1st.
UFA.
So I think I feel like if you're Swayman, like just take a 1-year deal. You go out there, you light it up, you bag a cool $8 million, and then it's like, all right, this is what it is now. It's like, yeah, either pay me or trade me then. Like,
yeah,
because it doesn't do any good for Swayman to. I mean, maybe like if the Bruins get desperate, but also if you're Swayman, like, are you willing to sit out an entire year? Like, I feel like eventually, if it gets down to like end of November and it's not signed,
I don't think there's a world where he does. Like, I think the Bruins would sooner sign him to $12 million than sit him a whole year.
But the Bruins don't have the money to do it. That's the problem.
They would move somebody to make that money. They're not in a position to just eat shit this year. Like, they made the playoffs comfortably last year with 109 points, but there were wild card teams making 91 points. Like, yeah, that's quite a few points, but that's also around 8 wins. Like, that it doesn't take very far into the season when
if it
Bussi
goes
and Korpisalo to lose out on those games. All these teams are getting better. Like, they can't afford to go 10 games without him, I don't think.
I feel like it's a lose-lose. It's such a L for Boston if they don't get bought, like if they don't get him signed by the time the regular season starts. Because if you're trying to move out,
you've already called his bluff, and now he's gonna dig in. Like, he's not gonna wait, and by game 3, he's not the one gonna be like, fuck, fine, already I'll sign. It's gonna be the other way around. It's gonna be the team going, shit, fucking Buffalo just put up 9 goals on Bussi. We need to do something.
Well, and say he's wanting 11 or 11 and a half or something. To make that work, you're going to have to move out a Brandon Carlo, a Pavel Zacha, a Charlie Coyle. They all have modified no trade clause, so they're probably not willing to go to a Anaheim, a Chicago, a San Jose.
Honestly, and then, I think they would have to move a guy they just signed. Like, I think it'd be more like a Zadorov.
Well, you can't do that now. Like, you can't sign a guy, and no team's ever signed a guy to a big deal like that just to flip him.
I don't think that. I think their intention is to keep him, but if he's the guy with the money and one of the only guys without a no move, like, to keep Swayman, absolutely.
They would find it would be like a Carlo or a Zach or a Coyle, and then even then, the problem is
if they say no to the trade, what can you do? Your hands are tied.
You find a way to make it work. You get in a third party team. It's like, hey, we'll send you, whatever player we're sending. You send this person to the shit team, and then we send the shit team and you guys. We each send you something. Like, the problem is if you get into the regular season and you don't have Swayman, who's a top 5 goalie, arguably, I think he's around in there at least, signed. If you're moving a Charlie Coyle, a Zach, a Carlo, and even if they agree to go to one of those shit teams, like, that team could sit there and be like, give us Fabian Lysell in a first round pick. Because what are you going to do? Not do it? And not
by a team and the player.
Yeah.
Like,
obviously a team would love to bring in a guy like Coyle, Zach, or Carlo, but it's like, they could sit there and be like, we've got you hostage here. Like, what are you going to do? Yeah, just not sign Swayman. Like, you need to trade him to. So, yeah, if Boston goes into the season without having signed, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Long story short, it's not a good situation for them to be in, and they will lose no matter what. Yeah. They will lose at the end of the situation.
Yeah, great regular season numbers for several years, and he just put up a baller ass postseason. The dude's gonna get paid, and they gotta accept that. They gotta accept it before the money starts going up, honestly. And they're gonna have to you're just gonna have to make the money work, like, however you have to do it. Like,
it just blows my mind that, like, you trade away Allmark, and then you sign Lindholm and Zadorov before getting a contract done with Swayman. Like, it should have been the day Allmark was traded, Swayman gets his contract.
Yeah. Okay. They definitely should have. I have a solution here. I'm not going to say it's the best solution, because I am not one of the people whose job is being paid to make trades. But currently, the Boston Bruins have 8.5 number cap space. They have just over 8.5 mil. All they need that money for is Swayman. This isn't going to sound very sexy, but if he is asking for 10 and wants it flat, you could give him an 8x10 if you buy out Joonas Korpisalo. He's at a flat 3 mil. That will put him at a cap hit of 1.5. It'll double the term, which is a 1.5 mil against your cap for 8 years. That sucks. But you will now have Jeremy Swayman locked in. You already I don't even think they want Korpisalo necessarily. I think they would rather have their young guy Bussi coming up. But as the backup, but like,
the buyout period is closed, so they couldn't even buy him out.
I'll be honest.
You can't just buy.
There was a buyout period. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I was looking at Korpisalo, and I was like, if you can find a way where you can find, a team that's willing to take him and you trade him and retain half. So you just retain $1.5 million for the next 4 years and trade him. Like that gets you up to 10.
Yeah, the 1.5. That might be what they have to do. I don't know what's his no trade look like. Modified no trade. Player submits a 10-team no trade list. Okay, so you can't trade him to San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim, or any Canadian team. Probably.
Most likely, yeah.
Give or few a couple teams. Like you can probably make that work somewhere. I thought it was a much more restricting no trade. Like you're gonna have to pay somebody to take it, but like, okay, it also gets more money off your books. Obviously, that goes to Swayman, but would
you clearly need the money?
Yeah, would a team take? What do they got? They have all 3 firsts, a first and a second for Joonas Korpisalo, nothing retained. Do you think a team takes it?
But that's the thing, right? Like it depends on the team. Like if you're looking around, what team?
Yeah, it's
like the only teams that could fit him, New Jersey, they're not doing that because they're going to need all their cap space. Chicago, again, they've got lots of guys they're going to have to pay. Like,
yeah,
the tough part is it's 4 years, right? Like Buffalo, maybe, but like again, you've got UPL right now, and you've got Devin Levi coming up. Calgary could be an interesting one,
but they've already got Wolf and Vladar. I guess they are looking to move Vladar.
You just move Vladar and you have Korpisalo and Wolf, like, because Calgary would love to stock up on some extra picks.
If
Anaheim,
that's not on his list.
Anaheim doesn't make sense. Columbus, obviously, he's never going back. San Jose, not going to happen. Utah, probably not, because they're actually trying to contend now. Like, they're being smart with their money.
I think Utah Yetis, it sounds like out in year 1.
It's going to be Detroit. Like, absolutely not. Their goaltending situation is already hell. They don't need another goalie.
Yeah.
So, like, really, Calgary.
And unfortunately, that's, I got to assume, on his 10-team no trade. Canadian team, one of the ones up there that's looking mostly to go to a rebuild, like.
So I feel like if you're Calgary, why not do, or both teams? You could even do, Korpisalo and a first, and then probably something else, maybe a third or a prospect or something,
an extra
for
sweetener.
Dan Vladar, and Calgary just retains half of Vladar. So you're getting Vladar at 1.1 mil. So you're clearing up monies. You could sign Swayman to 10, allegedly, like assuming that's what Swayman gets is 8 by 10. You have Vladar as his backup for 1 year, 1.5, and then Calgary gets Korpisalo, who
I wonder
you roll
how
him and Wolf in.
That. Going back to Boston.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love it. He'd get to have a chance for a cup again, and I mean, he knows this is his last year with Calgary. Yeah. He's probably getting moved at the deadline if anything.
Yeah. Low key, like a 10-team no trade list doesn't sound that bad once you really look at it. Those 10 teams are generally the most likely to be the ones to take this deal.
Yeah. Like Calgary's the only one I'm looking at where I'm like it makes sense.
The cap, if it does go up the way people want it to, around $4 million a year, maybe. We'll see. If it does, that makes $1.5 million not that bad. I guess they're past the buyout, but that might have been a solution that's not sexy looking, but it might have just got them there. They're in a bind.
Yeah, I think
we'll have to see
like
how
if
they
you're
figure it. But
I think if Korpisalo's the guy that's moved, like, again, I think Calgary's the only one that you could really make a solid case for it actually working out. Like, if it's not Korpisalo, you probably move a Andrew Peak or a Morgan Geekie or something.
I think
Zadorov's not getting moved. Man, they're not, because then you run into
have to no trade.
No, but then you run into that Vegas thing where free agents are like we don't want to go there because there's no loyalty, or any player going to Boston is going to be like,
oh, I think Boston's too desirable of a market for that to matter too much. If they made a habit of it, but they clearly didn't pick up Zadorov for that purpose, They're not trying to flip him. They don't want to lose him. But like if a team's looking at it, like they're not going to be like, they kick Zadorov to the curb. They're going to go, shit, they were in a bind with Jeremy Swayman, who is freaking sick. Like I think players will understand the business end of they fucked up their goaltender management, and because of that, unfortunately,
Zadorov's not getting moved. It would be a Peak, or it'd be a Morgan Geekie or something.
I think it would probably be Peak, because I think the 2.75 mil would be enough. Yeah. But if on the chance that that's not enough somehow to make the money work, I think Zadorov would be next, because Zadorov's the next amount of money.
No, because there's just no way, because Zadorov's a good player, but especially out of the teams of the teams that have 5 mil or more cap space, how much are you going to have to attach to trade Zadorov, even if you do? Because
that's not a bad contract, is it?
He's 29. He'll turn 30 in April, but it's a 6-year deal. So if you're the teams that have them, New Jersey doesn't need him. Chicago, again, you've only got 5.9, and you've got lots of young guys you got to pay. Buffalo doesn't need him. Detroit, no, because you got to sign Sider. Yeah. Utah, I don't think they need him now after they've added all their defensemen. Anaheim's got lots of young solid D. Columbus does. San Jose's again, you're going back to Calgary.
You know what?
And I don't think Calgary's.
I think Utah might actually be a real interesting fit. Dursey, Sergachev, that's their top line right there. John Marino and Ian Cole. Ian Cole on your top in your top 4 is that's not very good. Valimaki and Kesselring, they're good. They're solid NHL players, but if your top 4 is Sergachev, Dursey, Marino, and then you add in a Zadorov, I think that top 4 looks a lot better then.
Yeah, but then again, you're looking at you've got to pay Logan Cooley soon. You got to pay Dylan Gunther soon. You've still got a lot of young prospects that are coming up that you're gonna have to pay. It's the term. It's not necessarily the cap at 5 mil, but it's the fact that it's 6 years.
Yeah,
which is tough for teams. You got to commit to that, and then. And again, for a lot of teams, it doesn't really necessarily fit in with their timeline.
Yeah, it's an awkward amount, but
yeah, I think it would be Peak, but again, I'm almost starting to think that it's going to end up just being a
Peak. I think so.
I think because it would give them 10.
Would. Yeah, I'm saying it would be Zadorov if that somehow wasn't enough, which would mean he's asking for 11 plus, and. If that's the world, then maybe, but most likely it would be Peak. I think
I'm starting to look at it, and
it.
I'm really just thinking it very well might end up just being a 1 year 8.5 mil deal, and then.
But I think his agent is screaming at him, no, don't do that. Goalies can blow out a knee, and that is it. All of a sudden, you.
Yeah, but the alternative is,
and then you lose your $70,000 over the next 8 years, $70 million over the next several years. I think he's got to cash in now, especially as a goalie. It's so volatile. You can just fall off a cliff. A small injury can be your career. I think he's got to make the bag now, and I think he probably wants to stay in Boston. He just also wants.
I think he does, but. It's just such a lose-lose for both sides. I'd be curious if it came around to that, end of November and he's unsigned. Is he then willing to just take a 1 year? Is he willing to sit out the whole year? Is Boston willing to be we don't have the money, we can't make it work? You're sitting out, and then all of a sudden, Swayman goes a full year without playing. Then what does a contract look like, right?
Yeah,
it's just these situations are just brutal, man.
Yeah.
I think something will get signed eventually. I don't know how or
I think
when.
before training camp. It's the Boston Bruins. They're a smart.
But training camp starts tomorrow.
Or sorry, before the regular season. Yeah. Before the regular season starts, probably a couple games he can get into before then, even. You know, with 3 or 4 or 2, 3, 4 preseason games. I think they got to, like, it's going to come to crunch time. You know, they're playing hardball with each other, but you showed your hand when you traded Allmark. You have to do it now. You have to do it.
And that's that's a thing, right? You trade away Allmark to commit to Swayman. Commit to him now.
Yeah. And you know what?
And like Sweeney's got no one to blame but himself. He had the money and he decided to spend a lot of it elsewhere before getting Swayman signed.
Yeah. And even if it takes, go and fuck, fine. And you just strap 2 first-rounders to him and send them to Utah, Seattle, whoever will pick up the phone and take your 2 first-rounders. Just take them. Now you don't have that contract that would have been eaten up cap anyway, and you can also sign Swayman. Like, does it suck losing as much as 2 firsts? Yeah. Are you hoping that those firsts aren't going to be much? Yeah. You want them to be, pick 20 to 32. You're looking to win, so
exactly.
You got to make the money work somewhere, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of if you're a playoff team, firing your first rounders into the sun to get shit done.
Yeah. They got to find a way to get him signed. So we'll be keeping close tabs on that situation as it is going to continue to go on until a deal is signed. But that does wrap up all the recent news around the league. Brady, do you have anything last you want to hit us with?
No, I think we covered a lot of stuff. I think we talked long about it, but that's the whole last point of a hockey podcast. It's we've been having a lot of fun going over each team with the reviews, but it is nice to just shoot the shit and talk about the recent stuff all over the league.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to start coming up soon as we are 2 more days away from NHL preseason games starting up. So you guys will be listening to this on the Thursday. The following day, the Friday, we will be coming back at you with the off-season reviews of the New Jersey Devils and the Washington Capitals. But that does wrap up everything we have for this episode here. We hope you guys enjoyed. Just listen to us again. Just talk about everything and anything from around the league, just in terms of news and rumors. But with that, we thank you guys once again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.